Hey guys, insight number 2. So we're in John chapter 1. Don't confuse it with 1 John, that's one of his epistles that he also wrote. So we've just looked at the first sort of 5 verses, but we're also looking at starting again back at 1 and going all the way through to 18, because this is talking about Jesus as a true light. What does that mean to you? What is Jesus as a light or as the true light? What does that mean to you? So in verse 6 it says, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. So we're talking here about John the Baptist. The same came for a witness, to be a witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to be a witness of that light. So he's not Jesus Christ, but he was sent to be a witness of Jesus Christ. He was sent to prepare the way. Because if you remember from last week, when Mary went to see, no, actually it might have been the week before. Oh my gosh, we're going quickly. Anyway, but when Mary went to see Elizabeth, whenever it was, and how John the Baptist leapt in his mother's womb at the sound of Mary's voice, he knew who that was. He knew she was pregnant with Jesus Christ. So John was sent to prepare. So I can imagine pretty much that John and Jesus Christ, not only cousins, John the Baptist and Jesus Christ, not only cousins, but probably pretty close in their journeys and their, like, even premortally, probably. So, in verse 9, that was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. As in, we're all born with the light of Christ, as in we're all born with that gift and that grace and that wonderfulness. Not one of us is born with sin. And I know there's a couple of churches that believe we're born with original sin, and you know that in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe that men are responsible for their own transgressions and not for what Adam and Eve did. They had their repentance process and we have ours. There is no original sin to us. We are born, babies are born perfectly beautiful just as they are. And yes, as they grow, there's issues that arise. And some are genetic, and some are mental health, and some are just sucky physical things. But they're born perfectly good, just as they're meant to be born. And we get the light of Christ with that. Now, we always have the light of Christ, whether we use it or not, or whether we even reflect it and let it shine. That's up to us. We also get the light of the Holy Ghost at baptism when we get that gift conferred on us. It doesn't mean that no one else has it. It just means that we have greater access to it, but we can also let that stagnate and fade away as well. So this is specifically talking about him having that, the way he is, and just that light. And that we're all welcome. Verses 10, 11, and 12 talk about he was in the world, and the world was made by him. So he came to this world, the world that he made, but the world knew him not. As in the people here, and they didn't know who he was. They had no idea. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. So he came unto his own people, and his people said, no, you're not him, get out. But as many as received him, to them he gave power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. And that's us, guys. That's pretty cool. So as many as received him, we get those gifts. It goes on to say a few things. In line 15, John be a witness of him and cried, saying, this was he of whom I spake, that he cometh after me, is preferred before me, for he was before me. As in heaven, he was before me. It's not like a timeline before me. It's because John was born first. It's more like in leadership in who he is before me. John the Baptist would be considered maybe a prophet in his time, but Jesus was the Christ. That means he's before me. And then 16 and 17, which I love. And his fullness have all received, and grace for grace, as in we get the fullness of Christ little bit by little bit. And then in 17, for the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Because that earlier law that was given by Moses was for those people that just struggled to even listen to one instruction and get it right. We've been there last year in the New Testament with those lovely people that crossed the desert and just could not even keep one commandment, right? I'm sure a lot of them did, but it was just a mess generally. So the law was given by Moses. He came in and said, these are the things we've got to do. He made them quite clear. Don't kill people. Don't do it, like the 10 Commandments. Basically, here's the law. And then there's like the law of the Sabbath and other laws that he gave. So it's not just the 10 Commandments, but the laws that they follow, that a lot of Orthodox Jewish religions follow still, those laws of Moses that were given. But the grace and the truth, the forgiveness, the acceptance and the love and everything, that comes from Jesus Christ. Because when Jesus Christ taught, see, like Moses' law was an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as in like, you steal from me, I get to take from you, because that's where the people were at. We've come a long way in society now, and we're not like that anymore. And they were in Jesus' time there, like he was teaching them, no, turn the other cheek, forgive your neighbor, love thy neighbor, like a different approach. So I just love those two verses very much so. And that was just really cool. What does Jesus as a true light mean to you? Like, what does that bring in? So why is light a good word to describe Christ? Why does the dark not comprehend his light? Because it doesn't. It says the dark comprehendeth it not. What does that mean? So it's spiritual light that Christ gives. John was seeking true light, as were many others. This is John the Revelator, not John the Baptist. A lot of Johns. Popular name, much like David. A lot of them. Popular name. Not so many Lorraines, so there you go. So it's spiritual light. So John the Revelator, who was seeking this, recognizes that, and we'll talk about that in the fourth one, how they meet up, like John the Baptist introduces them. So they were seeking true light, as were many others. And if you're seeking true light, the minute that you see it, you recognize it, because you know, like, you might not be able to describe what you're looking for, but you know it. In verse 16 to 17, John the Revelator, that's what he's known by, or John the Beloved, both titles, talks about what this light brings. It's a fullness that comes as we have or develop that relationship with Christ. Grace and truth come from Christ. So while Moses again gave us all these laws and rules, which the people needed then, we are now given that more compassionate, loving, kind, be more Christ-like kind of way. Not kind of way, but like be that, aim for that. And just, like you can stand up for yourself, but what are you defending? Unless you're defending family, your religion, or your home kind of thing. It's like, let it be. And you'll know that too. You'll feel that. It'll feel different than other things. Elder Bednar, he said, Jesus Christ is the light that dispels fear, provides assurance and direction, and engenders enduring peace and joy. So as a light, it may be a good representation of that whole, when you're in the complete darkness that they would have had back then, because there's no street lights and there's no, all the house lights that we have in a city that just makes it glow. If you've ever been in a plane, which most of you would have, and you're flying at night somewhere, there's no hiding that city, right? You can see it for miles. You can see everyone's house lights, the street lights, the whole thing. It just glows. It's magnificent, really. It's quite a beautiful thing to see, especially in some of the bigger cities, like when we flew into Thailand and you go in between the buildings, and it's kind of cool. It's pretty cool. Hong Kong too was between the buildings quite closely. Thailand not as bad, but it's pretty cool when you see a city that big, with that many lights. It's quite beautiful. It's its own unique beauty. So think of that time, and that if you had complete darkness and here's this light that just appears in it and kind of just glows, and you get to go and talk to it and have a relationship with it, a friendship relationship with it, and love it, and it gets brighter and brighter as you grow grace by grace, little bit by little bit, and have that relationship. You get that bigger truth and that bigger relationship, so you get that bigger light. That's why it's a really good analogy, and that's why they probably used it, but it's still true now. He is the gospel light. He's a spiritual light. So while these days we might not need a candle to give us light, we just flip on the light switch or whatever, or right now I'm sitting in front of the phone and I've got lighting behind me so that I look good, or look acceptable, it's just, that's the feeling it is spiritually, is that we can feel like we're alone in the dark, and actually no, we're not. He's there. It's light. He's guiding us. We can't see around us, but we can trust that light. So Jesus Christ is the light that dispels fear, provides assurance and direction, and engenders enduring peace and joy. Beautiful words, Elder Bednar. That's what does Jesus Christ as a light mean to you? How does that look like for you? What does that work like for you? I'm interested. Let me know. Comments. Put them in. All right. Hang on. We're going to go through verses 19 through 28 and talk about, who are you, John the Baptist? Let's see. All right. I'll see you there.